Welcome to News Brief. Okay, let's unpack this. President Donald Trump activating new tariffs today, August 7th. The stated goal: correcting trade deficits, essentially trying to shrink that gap when a country imports more than it exports to the U.S. But what's really striking is, well, just how wide-ranging these are, and the criteria seem varied. How are they actually being applied?
Yeah, it's quite broad. We're talking dozens of countries, and the triggers are very specific. So there's sort of baseline 10% for countries with trade surpluses with the U.S. Think the U.K., for example.
Okay, 10%.
But then you see these really big jumps. Brazil is facing 50%. The justification given is defense of Bolsonaro's policies, and India also gets hit with 50%. That one's explicitly linked to buying Russian oil.
Wow, 50% is steep. What about others, like the EU or Japan?
For the European Union, Japan, and South Korea, it's set at 15%.
15. And our neighbors, Mexico and Canada, especially with USMCA, you'd think.
Well, Mexico gets 25% on certain specific exports, but they do have a 90-day window now to negotiate.
90 days, okay. And Canada.
Canada's already had a 35% tariff applied that started back on August 1st.
Right. Now, what about China? Weren't there talks? Did they reach any kind of agreement?
Yes, actually, that's a key point. China and the U.S. did reach an agreement. They've agreed on mutual tariff reductions, and they're eliminating restrictions on some strategic goods. It definitely signals a kind of rapprochement.
Interesting. So a deal with China, but these broad tariffs elsewhere. Are there exceptions to the China deal right now?
There are. Current exceptions include things like steel, autos, pharmaceuticals, and crucially, semiconductors.
Semiconductors. I thought I heard something about that. Trump hinting at more.
That's right. He floated the idea of a future 100% tariff, specifically on semiconductors, though he did mention possible exceptions for companies that build factories here in the U.S.
100%. So adding all this up, what's the bottom line? What does this do to the average U.S. tariff rate?
Well, the immediate result today is pretty stark. The average U.S. tariff rate has climbed to 15.2%.
15.2%. So what does that number really signify?
It's more than just a number. It means the U.S. has its highest average tariff rate since the post-World War II era. This could fundamentally change global trade flows, how goods are priced, supply chains, everything, really. Big impact potential.
And these economic pressures, they rarely stay just economic, do they?
Yeah.
They often spill over into geopolitics. Which brings us to, well, here's where it gets really interesting. Ukraine? Tomorrow, August 8th, that's the deadline for President Trump's 10-day ultimatum to Putin to halt the offensive.
Exactly. And you can see the diplomatic activity has really ramped up. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff was in Moscow yesterday, met with Putin for nearly 3 hours.
3 hours. And Trump's reaction?
He described it as very productive, said there were great advances. That's the public statement anyway.
Okay. Productive sounds good, but is the U.S. still holding firm on the threat of sanctions if there's no ceasefire?
Oh, absolutely. That pressure is still very much on the table. Secondary sanctions remain a threat. And the Kremlin confirmed they are preparing for a Putin-Trump meeting specifically to find a resolution.
A direct meeting. Interesting. What's also interesting is who's not seemingly central in these talks right now.
Right. President Zelensky of Ukraine. He's notably absent from these direct discussions. It positions Trump much more as a mediator between Russia and, well, the U.S. perspective.
And connecting this back, you mentioned India's 50% tariff earlier.
Precisely. That tariff on India for buying Russian oil, it's clearly not just about trade deficit numbers. It looks like a strategic tool, a point of leverage within this whole Ukraine context.
Okay, so from global power plays to something much closer to home, our health. There's a major new Harvard study out today published in the BMJ British Medical Journal. It links French fries to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes. And the scale of this study is huge, right? Over 205,000 adults tracked for more than 30 years.
It really is a significant data set, and the findings are quite specific. Eating French fries just 3 times a week, that increases your risk by about 20%. And if you eat them 5 or more times a week, it jumps to a 27% increase.
Okay, quickly touching on a couple other briefs. Environment first. The Gifford wildfire in California, that's impacting Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties. And it's being made much worse by this severe heat wave they're having. Very difficult situation. And also a shift in the entertainment world. Netflix. They're getting rid of their basic ad-free plan.
That's right. Starting in September, the standard with ads plan will become their cheapest option.
So what happens to people currently on that basic ad-free plan?
They'll be automatically moved over to the ad-supported plan when their next bill comes around, unless, of course, they choose to upgrade to one of the more expensive ad-free tiers.
I see. It's a pretty clear move by Netflix to push people towards ads, boost that ad revenue.
Definitely. And predictably, it's already generating some backlash from subscribers who liked that cheaper ad-free option.
Yeah, I bet. So as we've kind of walked through today, tariffs, geopolitics in Ukraine, health studies on fries, even streaming plans, it really shows how interconnected everything is, doesn't it? You tug one string and you see the ripples across completely different areas.
Absolutely. It really paints a complex picture. And maybe that leaves a thought for you, the listener. How do you start to spot these connections, these subtle links between different news stories day to day? And what might those connections mean for how you understand the world or even the choices you make?